It's time to get real with Eddie, here to help you understand the changing real estate market and meet your real estate goals. Over 19 years in the business. 2018 Realtor of the Year of Three Rivers. Past president of the Three Rivers Association of Realtors. Director at the Illinois Association of Realtors and team lead of the Ruettiger Group at Baird & Warner. Here's Eddie Ruettiger.
And it's time to get real with Eddie here at WJOL 1340. And here in studio, I have with me none other than Nancy Vallee. Nancy, how are you doing?
Fine. How are you today?
I am wonderful. I'm wonderful. I can actually hear you.
Yeah. Woo.
I'm going to do a quick board modification. And from Loan Depot, Joe Medrano. Joe, how are you?
Doing fantastic. A great day being alive. Thanks for having me here.
So Joe has been dying to get on the show.
Almost killed myself.
Because Joe and I have some history I didn't realize until we were at installation last
night. Oh, you're not bringing this up.
I am.
Oh, come on.
I am. Both of us had mobile DJ businesses back in the day. You kind of were like Naperville and North, and I was like the Plainfield South.
Yeah.
But yeah, you had a show on the road.
Show on the road. That business is still alive today.
So yeah, mine's done, closed up. I'm retired. So
you were smart, that's why.
You're looking at the DJ itch right now. This is what keeps the DJ itch at bay and keeps me kind of like, I don't need to go out on a Saturday night and throw on the ones and twos.
Well, here's the thing. While people are spending their money on Saturday nights, we're making money.
We were making money. This is so true. It's part of the reason why I did so well in my 20s and 30s, because I never spent it.
Yeah. Yep.
I was either at a wedding, at a bar, and I was paid to be there, not, paying to be there. So that's always the crazy
They always
part.
wanted to pay you with free drinks. That's the thing.
Yeah, no, I never took that.
No, I neither did I.
No,
Maybe once I did when I was young.
Does not pay my gas bill. With the gas,
it certainly doesn't.
Even back then, as gas being as cheap as it was, does not pay for gas. I'm sorry. So, all right, so let's talk about what Loan Depot is really quick and about you. First off, how did you make the move? I know how I made the move. How did you make the move out of doing that into the loan business?
Well, so back in, I'm going to date myself now, 1999, my daughter was at that point about 1.5 years old. And I was working weekends continuously, consistently, every single weekend, 2 to 3 days in a row, just doing events. And there was a Thanksgiving get-together when my family got together, and they were pulling out these, photos that took place over the summertime. Back then, there were prints. There were no digital prints. But I was going through all the photos, and man, they're having fun. They're having a lot of fun. Next photo, they're having fun. And as I was going through all these photos, I thought to myself, where am I in all these photos? And it dawned on myself as I was gone on the weekends, always working. So that's when I said to myself, believe this or not, I never told you this to you, Eddie. But I said, I'm gonna leave the entertainment business and I'm gonna go be a real estate agent. And I told this to one of my friends who was in the mortgage business, and he said, "Why are you leaving the entertainment business?" And I said, "Because I want to have my weekends free." And he said, "Do you realize what realtors do on the weekends?"
I was just gonna say, and what do we do on the weekends?
So he said, "Well, why don't you come in and sit in my shop with his mortgage company? Let me show you the ropes. You're good with numbers," which I am. And he says, maybe this might be a good alternative. And so that's what I did. And I fell in love with the industry. It so happened just a year before that happened, I had bought my first home. So real estate was like, I went through a process, and I loved the process. I loved the negotiation of it, the mortgage side of it. So that's kind of how I fell in. And so 23 years later, I'm still doing mortgages.
And it's kind of funny. You kind of do fall in love, and it's like that scene from Pretty Woman. Like when he's talking about opera. Those that love it will always love it automatically, and those that don't love it, they can learn to love it, but it'll never be the same exact passion for it. So it really does hold true in that kind of aspect of everything. It's definitely amazing. All right, let's talk some actual real estate, because there was some crazy stuff that happened after we got off air last week. We were talking about what the Fed's been doing and all this other stuff. Rates hit 7% last week for a moment.
Yes, they did.
Not only did they have hit 7%, they turned around and there was some locations that you had to pay a point up front because the secondary market had a panic attack, basically.
Yep.
And they weren't looking to buy mortgage securities. We basically had an equity problem going on last week for a moment.
Yep. So what happened was after the Fed made the announcement to raise the Fed funds rate by 0.75% last week, the market had already priced that in. So immediately following the Fed announcement, we didn't see any increase, but several days later we saw it. Okay. And the reason why you couldn't get a rate at a 7% without paying points is because the secondary market, there was no open market for that. As a lender, if you wrote that mortgage, you couldn't turn around and immediately sell it on the secondary market without having to pay somebody to buy that note. Okay. So since then, the rates have subsided a little bit. Today is a good day. Yesterday was a good day. We follow the bond market, so when the bond market does well, the mortgage rates do well. You know, but this unfortunately this is not the end of these Fed funds rates being increased. You know, we saw a 75 basis point increase last week. They're already talking about what they're going to do in November and December. And they're not thinking it's going to be 75 basis points. They're thinking more it's going to be about 50 basis points. So that is, in our eyes, a little bit of better news because they're starting to decrease the amount of the rate increase that they're going to be doing here in the coming months.
Well, as they say, when the rates go up, they take the elevator. When they come down, they take the stairs. You know, and you know, it's just so some people understand what was really happening. So there's two ways lenders make money. All right, first they make a little bit of money on your closing costs that you're charged. All right, that we're going to really simplify.
Yeah, somewhat true.
This.
Yes.
So they make a little bit of money there. All right, but that's really operational capital. That's really
correct.
just pays for
Processing and underwriting.
Processing, underwriting, all those people's paychecks, stuff like that. I mean, there's no real profit there. Maybe a small amount, maybe. What they really make is the fact you take out a $100,000 mortgage, and at a 6% interest rate, hypothetically, you're going to end up, if you make every payment exactly on time, you're going to pay back over 30 years, $300,000. All right? Well, the lender doesn't want to wait 30 years to get $300,000. So they go to the secondary market and go, hey, secondary market, give us $110,000 and we'll give you this and you can make the profit over the next 30 years. All right? And you can look at the profit potential. You're going to make $190,000 profit if you give us $110,000. Well, they say, okay, that's great. We'll do this. And then you turn around, you know, the lender takes the $100,000 they loaned out, they get their principal back, they take a $10,000 profit. Hey, guess what? Everybody's happy. What was going on is in that secondary market, they were worried that it wouldn't be a 30-year mortgage. They were worried that these mortgages would refinance in 6 to 12 to 18 months because the rates are going to drop. So therefore, they weren't going to get. They'll get their $100,000 back because you got the borrower has to pay principal, but the borrower doesn't have to pay interest because there's usually not penalties to paying off most modern mortgages early.
That's correct.
So therefore, they're worried. Well, if we took this loan and it's refinanced, we might only get $103,000 back, and we're taking a $7,000 loss. So that's why there was some companies, I don't think Loan Depot was doing it, but there were some companies that said, yeah, we have 7.5, but we need a point up front just to get the rate, not buying it down, but get that. So there was a moment of some liquidity issues, honestly. So
and most lenders are charging points. It's rare now these days to be able to get a fair market rate without having to pay points because exactly what you described.
Yeah.
There might be some portfolio lenders that will do it with no points, but even then, because it's portfolio and it's an in-house product, they're going to need to make money somehow, some way. So they're either going to build it in points or they're going to build it in the rate. You know. So, by the way, Eddie, what you just described with the fear of secondary market taking on this loan and experiencing a refinance prior to what they were estimating, it's in our industry, it's called an early payoff.
Yeah.
So that's a big factor that the secondary market has to look at when they're taking these loans onto their books. They estimate how long the life of the loan is going to take because that's how long they can expect a profit. So if they estimate on a 30-year loan that this loan is going to perform for 7 years, you know, and they refinance in year 2, they're missing out on 5 years worth of income stream on that loan. So it's no longer performing as they thought it would.
And this is one of the things you have to understand, too, is your very, very first house payment is mostly, there is some principal, but most of it is interest. And this is the reason why the interest is front loaded.
Mm-hmm.
All right, where the very, very last house payment, again, if you made all 30 payments every year on time, that last house payment is mostly principal.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why we talk on the show all the time. One extra house payment a year. You make one extra house payment a year of principal, not your taxes, not all that other stuff, of principal. You can knock better than 7 years of mortgage off of your house because that interest is not compounded at the day, it's compounded every month.
Right.
They re-look at it. So if you pay extra, you're bringing down that interest because you're bringing down the principal that the interest is based off of.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a huge game changer, is making that extra payment. You can really beat the system. If you can take a 30-year mortgage if you really want and turn it into a 15 or a 10.
Yeah. Well, if you make an extra payment, I've looked at the numbers, and you're spot on. It's about 7 years off of that 30-year loan. But then the question becomes, how do you make that extra payment? Because you got to work it into your budget somehow. And a few ideas with that is you take your tax refund.
Absolutely.
In April when you get that, and whatever tax refund you get, you can just take that and make an extra payment direct towards principal. When you make that payment towards your mortgage servicer, you got to mark it as extra payment towards the principal. Because if you just send it to them, some servicing companies will hold it into an allocated account and never do anything with it.
Which I think there should be a law against that.
That's BS.
Because they know what you're sending for. They know what needs to. It should automatically be applied unless otherwise directed.
Exactly. You know, so I agree with you. But some servicers will take that extra payment, and if you don't specifically identify what you want that money to go towards, they'll hold it in an unallocated account. Okay, so that's one way that you can make an extra payment on your mortgage every year. The other way is called biweekly payments. Okay, so most of the nation, some of us, get paid like every 2 weeks. Okay, well, guess what? In a 12-month period, you would think that there would be, people say, oh, there's 4 weeks in a month. Well, then that would make it 24 pay periods. But if you get paid bi-weekly, there's actually 26 bi-weekly payments in there, okay? So if you set your mortgage payment up so that you've got a chunk, half of your mortgage payment is coming out in week 1, and the other half of the mortgage payment is coming out in week the third week, you're essentially going to make 26 bi-weekly payments at the end of the year, which then converts into 13 monthly payments. And that's how you can make 13 payments.
And that's just paying principal, actually.
Yes.
You're just paying the principal, but because of you pay early and it gives it less time to accrue that interest. Now, the problem with that is there is a little problem. You got to check with your servicer.
Mm-hmm.
All right? So when we say servicer, we mean whoever you're paying the mortgage to. That is your servicer.
Mm-hmm.
All right? So you have to check with them because some do not take bi-monthly payments purposely for that. Mm-hmm. They know that loophole.
Yeah.
And it's in the paperwork. They will send it back. They will reject it. So you need to be very specific when you set your mortgage up to see if bi-monthly payments are allowable. But absolutely, if you can do that, that's another huge way. What we do is we just send in an extra $100 to $150 a month.
That's another way to do it.
Yeah, I mean that's it. We just send $150 a month and call it a day. Here we go. This is it, and we just keep just pounding on that mortgage. So it really does make a big difference. All right, so Realtor.com magazine, Melissa Tracy had an article talking about the mortgage rates inching closer to 7%. Pending home sales fell 24% last month compared to last year, and existing home sales were down 20% annually in August. I am tired of them comparing it to last year.
Yes. Amen to that.
Yeah. You cannot compare. Can you?
This year is not the issue. This year is not the bubble. Last year was the bubble. Last year was a over accelerated market.
Last year was the anomaly.
Yes.
Yep.
They all think that the going back to normal is the anomaly. That, oh, it's a bubble bursting. And they keep misreading this market in my view, because one of the things that I don't think they're looking at is the fact that rental rates are going up
Mm-hmm.
at the exorbitant amounts that they were, and still continuing to go up. And that is why you're not seeing a dramatic drop off in pricing. While, yes, okay, pending home sales were down 24%. I get that.
From last year.
From last year.
If you take a 10-year view of that, we're still going up linearly.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And that's what they fail to say in the article.
Yeah, and we talk about it in the show all the time. We swear to God, it's clickbait. It is data and information, because if it bleeds, it leads. It's the old newspaper paper article.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, you have this whole industry that needs those clicks to their website to get to sell to their advertisers. Hey, we had 10 million people click through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they never compare it to pre-pandemic. And you know what? We've had 2 years of serious anomalies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So start comparing it to 2018 and 2019. That's really normal. And that was accelerated. So
Sam Cotter, Freddie Mac's chief economist, the uncertainty and volatility in financial markets is heavily impacting mortgage rates. Our survey indicates that the range of weekly rate quotes for a 30-year fixed mortgage rate has more than doubled over the last year. This means that for a typical mortgage amount, a borrower who locked in at a higher end rate range would pay several $100s more than a borrower who locked in at a lower range. The large discrepancy in the rates means it has become even more important for a homebuyer to shop around with different lenders. Again, I think they're comparing it to a normal market. The abnormal aspects here are, first off, don't get me wrong, wages have not kept up with this inflation.
They haven't.
But we have seen some significant wage increases. We've seen like 5% in the last year.
Mm-hmm.
We were running 3% prior to the pandemic, almost 4%. It's like 3.8, 3.9. So we were seeing some good wage increases going on. Second, there is so much cash out there still
Mm-hmm.
that is driving this market. It is crazy to think that the cash is all gone. It's not.
It's not. And that's why we have inflation.
It is.
Yeah. We're seeing inflation right now, Eddie, because of all the money that was pumped into our economy artificially. You know, I think it was like, I forget the numbers, but like $6 trillion of printed money that was printed in the last year and a half due to the pandemic.
Yeah.
You know, we were getting the stimulus checks. We were getting, on top of the stimulus checks, The student loans didn't need to get repaid. There was a big segment out there of people that went on home forbearances on their mortgages. So there's extra money that's out there.
Well, and here's the thing: the forbearance program, I believed in it. It worked. We had 4.8 million on the forbearance aspect at one point. Okay, we're down, I think, under 1 million units in that still left in that forbearance program. The majority have either refied, sold, or they've just been able to pay off. It was just a protection to protect themselves.
That's correct.
And so it was a great move. It was a great program. It stopped us, from going through our normal foreclosure process. It was a smart move on the bank's side.
Yeah. But the point that I was trying to make is that because those people that went into that program didn't have to make a mortgage payment, they've got an extra $1,800, $2,500 a month that then, they've got extra money to spend. So now when there's extra money.
So I don't make my house payment. Let's say it's $2,000 a month for 6 months.
Yeah.
All right. That's going to be $12,000.
And that's where it stings you.
And now I turn around and sell my house because it's going up in price. I don't take a hit on that, and now I can buy, and I got an extra 12 grand to put on top of the pricing that I had. Plus, if I timed it right, I was getting a rate under 4% for sure, maybe under 3%. So somebody,
if that was about 12 months ago.
That was some good hey, but that's some good business moves.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fault somebody for doing that. I get it. That's the way the rules were written.
And by the way, that extra 12 grand that that example that you threw out, that's not free money. They, like you said, they either refinance it or when they sell, that extra 12 grand gets added onto their payoff.
Yeah, but
the fact that they're selling their house more now.
Yeah,
they're going to make that up and some.
Yeah, I actually think they lost money because even though they were in forbearance and they weren't making that 12 grand payment, the problem is they were still getting hit with interest on that. So now your again, it goes back to what we were talking about, paying your mortgage off early. That 7% aspect didn't kick in. So we are way over on time. I just caught what time it is. So we're going to hit a quick break. And when we get back, we are going to continue talking with Joe from Loan Depot about today's real estate market. Keep it here with Get Real with Eddie.
Doing everything for you except the moving, and be glad. It's Get Real with Eddie.
If you've got questions on the market, give me a call, 815-823-5478. Again, 815-823-5478. All right, so keep it talking about the market, and I'm really trying to understand inflation and your mortgage. All right. So, Federal Reserve's decision to raise the federal funds rate last week, as bank rate says, the Fed has raised rates again, announcing yet another third quarter point hike on September 21st. The hikes are designed to cool the economy that has been on fire. I mean, and that's, the truth. We have had an economy that is, but it's coming back. I mean, when you slam on the brakes and put the economy to zero, and then you're starting a car, you're taking off. It's like taking off from a street light, and you're the number one car on the lane.
Yeah.
You see you got a 65 mile an hour speed limit there. Hey, let's go.
Yeah.
So it's going to take off. I mean, it makes complete sense.
Yeah, and the thing is with this inflation and what that article is talking about is, the Fed had to have done something to cool this off. It's just a principle of supply and demand, and right now what we're seeing because of this inflation is that all the supply is not there. There's not much of a supply, and there's too high of a demand. Goods and services we talked about, several months ago, you couldn't get shipping containers in from China because no one was producing anything. That drove up the demand, and the supply was so limited. That's why inflation is taking place.
Well, and you add in a couple other aspects to it. I mean, the supply chain is an issue, all right, because you had people sick, so they weren't making things. So now there's a gap in supply. I mean, that's a very, very basic summary of it. Then you add in the fact that these oil prices have taken off dramatically. For whatever reason, I know there's a lot of different views on that, but the fact is it is costing you 4 times more to get a container from China to here than it was 3 years ago. So those are big issues that have caused, the inflationary aspect. All right, so Nancy,
Yes.
Fortune.com, the king of clickbaits, in my opinion, explains what?
They explain as the Federal Reserve moved into inflation fighting mode, financial markets quickly put upward pressure on mortgage rates. Those elevated mortgage rates, coupled with sky-high home prices, threw cold water onto the housing boom.
And they make it sound like it's just stopped dead in their tracks. And every article I see coming out of them is like the sky is falling, the sky is falling.
It always is.
It's just, but I mean, we talked about it last week. Showings have only fallen by 16%. I mean, one of the things we did point out last week, while they did raise the rates and they cooled demand, what they didn't anticipate, they've also cooled off supply. I'm not going to sell my house now. If somebody that's got a 3 or 4% rate, they're like, no, I'm going to wait. I'm not selling. I'm okay where I'm at. I don't want a 6% interest rate. So now that's a thought process going on in people's heads. Now, whether it's a right or wrong process, that's another conversation. But it is something that's going through in their heads and making them make decisions on where they want to be at.
Yeah. And they take a pause and say, maybe I should just wait. How much higher is it going to go? Am I going to find something? The same problem with supply that we've had. Sellers are worried they're not going to find something. Of course, we have ways of working that out, but that's a fear.
And on top of it, I went through the Great Recession, all right? I started post 9/11. All right, for those that know, my test date to get my real estate license was 9/11. I was sitting in class after the second tower fell, and I still remember to this day, there was an older gentleman, someone that was probably younger than me now, but older than me then, age-wise. The gentleman was probably in his 30s. He's like, I got to go get my kids. I've heard this is a full-on attack, and they've launched missiles against us. I mean, there was that much chaos that morning. Somebody thought there was missiles being launched against us. So there was nothing that happened for almost 6 months after 9/11. Deals fell, but everybody just froze to see what the world was going to do.
And I remember the mortgage rates back then. Because of that world, event, the rates dropped.
Yep.
If you were paying attention, you can remember that long ago that the rates dropped.
Yeah.
And then you had the Enron crisis that happened after that, and
Yeah.
dot-com stuff, and it just led to low rates, inflated appreciation, and then the market finally crashed in 2008.
Got into it. No, there was a small crash right there. There was the dot-com crash that happened.
Yep.
All right. And, Enron and some of that other stuff. And then it took off. And then we got into '08. And '08 it wasn't a real estate problem. It was a regulator banking problem is what it was. But the real estate market was being used as that tool, and it got affected. So you had individuals packaging, subprime loans and giving them high bond ratings, and The Big Short
it was
is
Wall Street trickery.
yes, that's a good way to look at it.
It's
The Big
what it
Short is
was.
a great movie.
Yes.
I mean, the only aspect is I don't think it held. The movie did not hold elected officials responsible for what happened as much as they should have been, because they were the ones pushing a lot of elected officials were pushing some of these low, dangerous mortgages, subprime mortgages as they're referred to. You know, mortgages where there's low credit ratings and poor payback history and things like that. So
I could tell you stories about that time. Oh my goodness. We were doing 100% loans.
Yeah.
With 580 credit scores.
Yeah.
Stated income.
Yeah. And it was a mortgage. I always said that is a mortgage that was designed for someone like myself that was self-employed. But you're giving it to an hourly wage earner. And they were saying, well, you're going to get a pay raise, and you give them an extra 10 grand in income. They had no chance of getting $10,000 more a year in the next 5 years if you took pay raises over the next 5 years.
Yeah.
They were not qualified.
They weren't. And those loans were called NIVA loans.
Mhm.
And NIVA. And no income, no asset verification.
Yep. So it was just completely crazy on what they were doing. All right, so that moves into, is this crazy or is this not? I don't think it is. But there's some people out in the market that think this is. FHA moves to include on-time rental payments for first-time homebuyers.
Yay!
Seriously.
Yay!
Yeah. How about it?
If you can make your rent payment on time, you can make your house payment on time.
Yeah.
It should be counted.
Yes.
Yes.
And it shouldn't be penalized for the small mom and pops that don't have the income or don't have the aspects or the systems or the tools to report every single month, like some of the big boys do.
Yeah.
Well, and they don't even report. What the big ones just only report when you don't pay. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but how easy is it for you as a lender to pull their rent payment history?
Well, it's easy for us to ask, but now if it's not being reported to the credit report, the only way we can verify is through documentation. And
Yeah.
Typically 12 months of canceled checks or 12 months of bank statements showing that you made a rental payment on time to your landlord.
Yep.
Okay? And if it's a private landlord, like if you have a rental property, Eddie,
Yeah.
and you're the landlord and I'm your tenant and I'm paying you, unknowingly, I'm paying you cash every month and you're going to take it, and then I go turn around and apply for a mortgage 12 months later, even though I've been making my mortgage payment on time for the last 12 months, there's no way for me to be able to verify that because I've been making those payments in cash.
Now, what about like Zelle or some of these other payment
We
systems?
can use that.
You can use
My company will use that.
Yes.
Every lender's different. If we can tie the Zelle payment and the Zelle is showing that it's being paid to the landlord,
Yeah.
okay, then we can do that. Now, if you, Eddie, the landlord was a management company, Properties 101 Inc. or whatever it is, and you can report that to the credit reporting agencies, we won't have to collect anything from the borrower, from the applicant, because it's already being reported to the credit report.
Yeah.
Right. But how many landlords actually report their tenants' credit payment, landlord rent payments to the credit report? Very little of them. Not many of them do that. So it's easy for us to ask the borrower, hey, give us proof, but sometimes they can't always prove that.
Julia Gordon, Federal Housing Commissioner, if you're regularly paying your rent on time, that is a good indication you will also pay your mortgage on time. We hope that adding this positive factor to all of the characteristics currently considered in an FHA credit evaluation will increase access to affordable FHA-insured mortgages for first-time homebuyers. Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
applaud
It's
that.
about time.
I applaud that, and I agree with that 100%.
It's almost, sometimes our society does penalize those that choose not to go into debt and those that choose not to, that do choose to use cash. Now I get it, you need documentation,
Mm-hmm.
all right? But in my view, writing a check is the same as cash, so what's the big deal?
Right.
Making that Zelle transfer. If I'm not turning around and putting it on a credit card and there's no interest being paid, where's the problem?
Yeah, we'll take that as form of documentation.
Yeah,
But that using no credit cards or no credit, it's a double-edged sword.
it is.
You know?
And that's a sad fact.
Yeah.
That is truly sad. All right, really quick, let's hit some Crest Hill numbers, and I'm going to rock a break since we're running behind here. Median sales price, Nancy, for your hometown there is $272,500. Well, your adopted town, let's say. Plainfield's your hometown.
Say Plainfield's my hometown.
Yeah. And so we are still, as of August, at 102% of original asking price. 18 days in market time, and 274, 236 is the average sales price for August over August. 21.1% increase from last year, last August.
Yes.
So some great numbers in Crest Hill. All right, when we get back from the break, because we just seem to be all over the place, we're going to talk about, I want to talk about that. I think we can talk about more. Existing home sales are slipping, and the mortgage rates are to be blamed, according to our favorite economist, Lawrence Yun. So keep it here with Get Real with Eddie. Welcome back to Get Real with Eddie. Hey, if you want information on the market, Nancy, call Nancy. What's the best number to reach you at?
My number, 815-545-1162. Again, 815-545-1162.
Hey, and just to let everybody know, we still have that property at 16048 South Longcommon Lane in Plainfield for sale. That is a ranch, 3-bedroom, 3-bath, with a full basement and a 3-car garage. That's right, everything good comes in threes in this one. And they have lowered the price to $539,900. This is a ranch in Creekside Crossing. I think this is a steal of a deal. 2,365 square feet. So check that out at Creekside Crossing. You always can give me or Nancy a call. Also, you can reach me at 815-823-5478. Or Nancy, where can they reach you at again?
815-545-1162.
All right, so Lawrence Yun did jump out talking about existing home sales slipping. And again, they're talking about the number of units being sold compared to last year when we sold tons of houses and versus this year. We still sold a lot of houses in 18, 19, and 20, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, we sold a lot of houses
All
back
right,
then.
so what did Lawrence Yun say, Nance?
Okay, so he's saying the softness in home sales reflects this year's escalating mortgage rates. Nonetheless, homeowners are doing well, with near non-existent distressed property sales and home prices that are still higher than a year ago. Home prices rose 7.7% in August compared to a year ago, according to NAR, and the median existing home sales price for all housing types increased to $389,500, with every major region of the U.S. posting hikes in home prices last month. August did mark the second consecutive month in which the median sale price dropped from its record high $413,800 from June. NAR's report notes that follows a typical seasonal drop in home prices after the peak in early summer.
But that's the thing. They're comparing it from June to August, which is normal. The prices do normally kind of go down
A little bit.
a little
Yep.
bit. But it's not necessarily that they're down year over year. They're not.
Yeah, we just saw that with Crest Hill. We
Yeah.
just saw that, we look at those numbers every week.
Yep.
They're all up year over year.
Yeah, so did your house go down in value? No. The other aspect, and we talked about it a couple weeks ago, was what it takes to get a mortgage and the average income in these regions. And while both, California, the cost of owning a home, or the average mortgage cost and average income cost, very close, almost upside down. Same with like the South Central area, except the Midwest. The cost of owning a home was like $68,000 a year versus the average income was around $90,000. There was a significant affordability for us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so that's some of the aspects that I think are missing. And while I do think you may see, we've said this, I do think there's markets that are overheated that are going to come down. I see Arizona and California both coming down in price. Texas, I don't think is going to come down in price, even though everybody says it's an overheated market. I think the demand is too high. And I think Florida is going to continue to go up, even with the horrible storm and everything that these people have gone through.
I think that's going to even more reason why it's going to go up, because there's going to be even more stress out on the housing market because of the storm.
Well, that's going to cause pricing, especially for new construction, to go up.
Yes.
Because now you've got a whole, let's be honest, almost a whole state. I mean, that storm seriously took some roids before, as it went through the Gulf Coast, and went from a 2 to a 4 as it came into the Gulf. And juiced itself up and pretty much had almost, I think at one point, the entire state covered.
Yes, it did. I mean, the rain part.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, so how much lumber, concrete, wiring, cabinets, fans,
and then the trades
fixtures,
to be able to take care of all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you got people that will live there full time, not just vacation homes. Don't get me wrong, I get Fort Myers, Naples, and those got hit. That's still very sad and devastating, but a lot of those were second homes. You get into the inner part of Florida, away from the coastline, a lot of those are primary residents.
Yes.
So
I think Nancy's on something there with the appreciation of homes, especially in the Florida area, because now you have all this construction, right?
yeah,
And going back to the law of supply and demand, there's going to be a huge demand. Can the supply keep up with the demand?
Yeah.
You know?
They were already in short
Exactly,
supply.
right?
So now, yep.
So now it's even going to be cost
Worse.
that much more.
yeah, it's going to cost that much more. So, all right, we are ripping through the show today. I don't know if our timing's off or what.
It's because we're having fun.
Joe did post before we went on air, folks, that we were going to be geeking out over real estate and mortgages, and we said on off air, yes, we are. So, all right, so getting the house ready if you are selling, the checklist. Yeah, and here's the thing, folks. I don't think this is just a checklist to get your house ready for sale. I think this is your house ready for winter, fall cleaning, whatever you want to say. Maintenance, all of these things that needs to be looked at. So, open blinds and curtains to let line in. Let's look at the curb appeal. Power wash outdoor surfaces. Not services. Surfaces. I need to get that done. I keep needing to power wash my drive and power wash the sidewalks.
Well, do it after Halloween, because the cobwebs can stay there until Halloween, right?
I just saw that meme. It
Wah,
said,
wah.
all my cobwebs are now decorating. I don't have to clean my house. So, clean inside and outside windows. Again, I'm just going to power wash that. Tidy up the landscape, freshen your entryway. Don't forget, this is a good time to check filters. And we're getting up close to the time change. Check those smoke detectors. And in Nancy's case, don't forget, rotate those bottles of wine.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I gotta come to your house, Nancy.
Yeah, anytime, Joe. Come on over.
Do you rotate 2 times a year? That was mine when I had a wine fridge. So my wife doesn't drink wine. She doesn't drink hardly at all. It is a miracle if I can get a drink down her.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I am too sometimes, because not that my wife's not a blast and fun, but just every now and then, you'd like to get your wife a little drunk. I'm just saying. I don't know why, but she is entertaining when she's had a couple. But yeah, she just doesn't drink. She's never really been a drinker. Like 2-3 times I've seen her drunk. So the worst I ever seen her drunk was, I don't know, there was 2 times, but the first time was actually before I even knew her. before I even knew her, and we didn't actually meet until 3 years afterwards. And then I realized, wait a minute, that was you.
So that was a legendary kind of
I was
night.
DJing a Christmas party she was at.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
That was a legendary
It
kind
was
of evening.
legendary. All right, folks, that wraps it up for Get Real with Eddie. Don't forget, check us out online at getrealwitheddie.com for all your information on real estate 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We keep you in touch on your largest investment all the time.
It's Get Real with Eddie, where everyone deserves the opportunity of home.
See, piece of cake.
Couldn't embarrass you that much.
Not at all.
Thanks for listening to Get Real with Eddie. Eddie Ruettiger is a realtor at Baird & Warner in Plainfield, license number 475141896. Managing broker Steve Engel. For more information on your neighborhood, call Eddie at 815-823-5478 or visit yourdwellings.com.